Humble man, wins the lottery, but pretends to be poor to test his friends. The results show him who really cares. The sun peeked through the window, casting a warm glow in Silas Grayson's small workshop. The familiar scent of oil and metal filled the air as he wiped his hands on a rag. It was just another day for Silas, a mechanic known for his hard work and quiet demeanor. But today was different. Today, he had a lottery ticket tucked safely in his pocket, a ticket that would soon change everything. As he scratched off the last number, his heart raced. The numbers matched. Each match felt like a drumbeat echoing in his chest. "No way," he whispered to himself, his voice barely above a breath. But the reality sank in as he read the ticket again, his hands trembling. He had won the lottery, a sum that could buy everything he ever dreamed of. Excitement surged through him, but it was quickly followed by a wave of dread. What would this mean for his life, for his friends? Silas thought of his simple life. He loved his job, fixing cars and chatting with customers. The joy of working with his hands grounded him. Yet, with this newfound fortune came a heavy burden. Should he tell anyone? He pondered the implications of sharing this secret. His mind raced through the faces of his friends, Mabel, Tomas, and others who filled his life with warmth. Would they still see him as Silas, the mechanic, or would he become Silas, the rich man? Later that day, as he sat with Mabel and Tomas at their usual cafe, Silas watched them interact. Mabel laughed at Tomas's jokes, her eyes sparkling with joy. He felt a pang of longing. Would their friendship change if they knew? He sipped his coffee, hiding his thoughts behind a smile. "You two always know how to make my day," he said, hoping to mask his inner turmoil. "Just telling the truth, Silas," Tomas replied, leaning back in his chair. "Life is simple when you're not chasing after money. It's what takes away from real friendships." The words struck Silas like a cold splash of water. He knew Tomas had a point, but he felt the weight of his secret growing heavier. Could money really corrupt what he had with his friends? As the evening wore on, Silas felt the tension in his chest tighten. He observed the people around him, friends chatting, laughter ringing through the air. But a shadow loomed over him. What if they found out? What if they turned on him? He glanced at Mabel, who was animatedly describing her latest craft project. Her passion was contagious, and he admired her determination. But he also felt a tug at his heart. He could help her. His wealth could make a difference in her dreams. Yet the fear of revealing his fortune kept him silent. "What's on your mind, Silas?" Mabel asked, her voice softening as she noticed his distant gaze. "Just thinking about life," he replied, forcing a smile. "You know how it is." "Yeah, but we all have dreams, right? Sometimes it just takes a little push to get there," she encouraged, her eyes filled with understanding. Silas nodded, feeling the warmth of her friendship wrap around him like a blanket. But still, doubt gnawed at him. What if his wealth changed everything? Would they still see him as their friend? Or would they see dollar signs instead? As they left the cafe, Silas felt the weight of his secret pressing down on him. He walked home slowly, lost in thought. The streetlights flickered on, casting shadows that danced along the pavement. Silas couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change, but he questioned whether it would be for better or worse. Would revealing his fortune bring him closer to his friends, or would it expose the cracks in their relationships? Each step felt heavier, leading him deeper into a labyrinth of uncertainty. With every passing moment, Silas realized he was caught in a web of conflicting emotions. The thrill of winning danced alongside the fear of losing everything he valued. As he closed the door to his workshop, he took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The lottery win was just the beginning, but the true test of his friendships had only just begun. Days turned into weeks, and Silas Grayson found himself slipping into a strange routine. He still attended gatherings with his friends, Mabel and Tomas, who remained blissfully unaware of the life-changing secret he held close. The laughter and warmth of their time together felt comforting, but an unshakable tension lingered beneath the surface. One sunny afternoon, Silas joined Mabel and Tomas at their favorite cafe. As they settled into their usual booth, Mabel's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Did you hear about the new mechanic in town? They say he's got quite the charm," she said, sipping her coffee. Tomas shrugged, glancing out the window. "Yeah, Jake, right? I've heard a few things. People seem to love him, but honestly, I don't trust someone who tries too hard." Silas felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Jake had become a hot topic in their social circle, and it stung to hear his friends talk about him so fondly. Silas had always been the reliable one, the mechanic they could count on, but now he felt overshadowed by this newcomer. "He's just trying to fit in," Silas said, trying to brush off his jealousy. "We all had to start somewhere." Mabel nodded, but her gaze drifted back to the door. "I guess. But it's hard not to notice how everyone is drawn to him. It's like he's a magnet," she said, with a hint of admiration. As Silas listened to Mabel, he felt invisible. The more people praised Jake, the more Silas worried about his own place in their lives. Was he still the same friend they loved, or had he become someone ordinary and overlooked? Over the next few days, Silas began to notice subtle shifts in behavior around him. Acquaintances he barely knew started to greet him with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Hey Silas, how's it going?" they would say, their smiles wide, but he could sense an underlying curiosity in their eyes. It felt as if they were trying to see him through a different lens, one tinted by the rumors circulating about the new mechanic. One evening, Silas found himself at a local bar with Tomas. The atmosphere was loud and filled with laughter, but he felt a growing unease. As they sat at the bar, sipping their drinks, Tomas leaned in closer. "Have you noticed how people act around money?" Tomas said, his voice low. "It changes everything. I believe it can ruin friendships. People become greedy." Silas's heart raced at Tomas's words. He understood all too well the fear of wealth and the way it could twist relationships. He wanted to tell Tomas his secret, to share the burden he carried, but he hesitated. What if revealing his win changed everything? Would it push his friends away instead of pulling them closer? "Money can do strange things to people," Silas replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I think true friends will stick around regardless." Tomas raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "True friends, maybe. But what about those who just want something from you? That's the real danger." Silas's mind raced as he wrestled with his thoughts. He felt trapped between his desire to maintain his friendships and the weight of his secret. The tension in his chest grew heavier with each passing day. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the streets, Silas walked home, lost in his thoughts. The laughter of his friends echoed in his mind, but it was laced with fear. He wondered if they would still laugh with him if they knew about his lottery win. Would Mabel still share her dreams, or would she see him as a source of help rather than a friend? The days passed slowly, and the cracks in Silas's facade began to widen. He felt the need to maintain the appearance of his modest life, but the pressure was mounting. Each gathering became a test of his resolve, and the fear of losing his friends loomed larger than ever. Silas knew he had to make a choice soon. The weight of his secret felt heavier with every interaction, and he feared that eventually the truth would slip out. Would he reveal his wealth, or would he continue to hide in the shadows, feeling invisible in a world that had changed around him? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the small town. Silas Grayson sat at his usual spot in the local cafe, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. His friends, Mabel and Tomas, were seated across from him, engaged in an animated discussion about their plans for the weekend. Silas listened, but his mind was elsewhere, tangled in thoughts of his secret. "Mabel, you really should go for it," Tomas urged, leaning forward. "Open that craft store. You have the talent, and we all know how much you love it." Mabel's eyes sparkled with hope. "I just don't have the funds to get started. It feels like a dream I can't reach," she replied, a hint of sadness creeping into her voice. Silas felt a pang of sympathy. He wanted to help her, to lift that weight from her shoulders, but the fear of revealing his fortune held him back. Maybe there's a way to make it work, he said, trying to sound encouraging. Mabel smiled, but it was faint. I wish it were that easy. I just need a little push, she said, her voice trailing off. As they continued to talk, Silas's heart ached. He thought about the money he had won, the money that could change everything for Mabel. But what would it mean for their friendship if he stepped in? Would they see him differently? Would they think he was trying to buy their loyalty? Later that evening, they found themselves at the bar, a familiar haunt where laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses. Silas sipped his drink, feeling the weight of his secret like a stone in his pocket. Tomas was deep in conversation with a group of friends, discussing wealth and its effects. Money corrupts, Tomas declared, his brow furrowed. Look at all those rich folks. They lose sight of what really matters. True friendship can't survive when money is involved. Silas listened, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. He feared that revealing his financial status would break the bonds he had with his friends. But what if it could help, he thought. What if I could use it for good? As the night wore on, Silas struggled with his thoughts. He watched Mabel laugh with another friend, her smile brightening the room. What if I told her? He pondered. What if I shared my secret and it changed everything for the better? But then doubt crept in, whispering that his fortune might drive a wedge between them. What if they see me as just a rich guy? He thought. What if they start treating me differently? The conversation shifted, and Silas found himself lost in the noise, grappling with his internal conflict. He felt like an outsider in his own life, caught between the man he was and the man his fortune had made him. Mabel, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, what if I could help you with your dream? Her head turned sharply, surprise etched on her face. What do you mean? I mean, I could help you get started on your store, he offered, his heart racing. Mabel's expression shifted from surprise to confusion. Silas, you're not talking about money, are you? Because I don't want charity. No, not charity, he insisted. Just, I want to help. I believe in you. Tomas interrupted, sensing the tension. What's going on here? Silas hesitated, thoughts racing. Just talking about Mabel's dream, he said, forcing a smile. I want to support it. Tomas narrowed his eyes, his cynicism surfacing. Just be careful, Mabel. Money can change everything. Silas felt the weight of Tomas's words, and the atmosphere shifted. His heart sank as he realized that the very thing he wanted to use for good was the same thing that could unravel the threads of their friendship. Maybe I should just keep quiet, Silas thought, feeling the burden of his secret grow heavier. The night wore on, and as laughter filled the room, Silas felt more alone than ever, caught in a moment of vulnerability where the cost of honesty seemed too high to bear. Silas Grayson sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the lottery ticket that had changed everything. The bright colors of the ticket reflected in his eyes, but the excitement from the win felt distant. A series of events was in motion, and he could feel the weight of his secret pressing down on him. He looked at the clock. It was almost time to meet Mabel and Tomas for their regular game night. As he stepped outside, the cool night air brushed against his skin, but his heart felt heavy. He walked to Mabel's house, his mind racing with thoughts. What if tonight was the night he finally told them? Just then, he spotted Jake chatting animatedly with a group of acquaintances. Silas felt a pang of insecurity. Jake's laughter filled the air, drawing people in like a magnet. Silas wondered if he would always remain in Jake's shadow. Silas, hey, Mabel called out as he approached her porch. She wore a warm smile that made his heart swell, even as his anxiety returned. You ready for some fun? Yeah, sure, Silas replied, forcing a smile. As the evening began, laughter and friendly banter filled the room. Tomas played his usual role as the jokester, making everyone chuckle. Silas watched them, feeling both grateful and guilty. The joy in the room was real, but he couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that his secret was a barrier between him and his friends. "Hey Silas, you're awfully quiet tonight. What's going on with you?" Mabel asked, concern in her voice. Silas shifted uncomfortably. "Just thinking about stuff," he said, avoiding her gaze. Later, during a break from the games, Mabel and Silas found themselves in the kitchen. She was pouring drinks when she suddenly stopped and looked at him. "You know, I've been thinking about that craft store I want to open, but with bills piling up, I don't know how I can make it happen." Silas's heart ached. He wanted to help her, but the fear of revealing his wealth kept him silent. "Maybe you could find a loan or something? You're really talented, Mabel." She sighed, her shoulders drooping. "I guess. But it's hard to get support when you're struggling." Silas bit his lip, feeling torn. "I wish I could do more," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Just then, Tomas joined them, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "What are you two plotting in here?" he teased. "Nothing much," Mabel replied quickly, her cheeks flushing. As the night wore on, Silas felt the tension mounting. He watched as Jake entertained the group with his stories of adventure. "You should have seen the view from the top of that mountain," Jake exclaimed, his hands animated. "It was breathtaking." "Sounds amazing," someone replied, eyes wide with admiration. Silas clenched his fists, feeling invisible. Did they even notice him anymore? The more Jake talked, the more Silas felt like he was fading into the background. Finally, the moment arrived. Mabel had just poured a round of drinks when Silas felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. It was now or never. He cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. Guys, can I say something?" The room fell silent, all eyes on him. He felt his heart race. "I have something important to share." Mabel's expression turned serious. "What's on your mind, Silas?" He took a deep breath. "I won the lottery. I'm a millionaire." Gasps filled the room. The shock was palpable. Tomas's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious? How much?" 10 million, Silas replied, his voice trembling. Silas watched the reactions unfold. Mabel's face turned from surprise to confusion, and Tomas looked uncertain, his expression hardening. Jake, however, wore a smirk, as if he had been waiting for this moment to pounce. "Wow, Silas, that's incredible," Mabel finally exclaimed, but her smile was shaky. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "I didn't want things to change between us," he admitted, feeling vulnerable. Tomas crossed his arms. "So, you've been sitting on all that money while we struggle? That's not cool, man." "Tomas, it's not like that," Silas replied, hurt. As the conversation swirled around him, Silas felt lost. He had hoped for support and understanding, but the truth revealed the fragility of their connections. Some friends stepped forward with genuine excitement, while others revealed their greed, asking questions about what he would do with his newfound wealth. Silas realized that honesty had brought him to a breaking point, but it had also unveiled the different intentions of those he cared about. The night ended with a heaviness that Silas had never felt before, leaving him to wonder if the truth had truly set him free, or if it had only complicated everything more. In the days following Silas's revelation, a whirlwind of emotions consumed him. He walked through his small town, feeling lighter yet burdened at the same time. The secret he had held for so long was out, but with it came a flood of questions about his friendships. Silas could not shake the feeling of unease that settled in his stomach. His first encounter after the big reveal was with Mabel. They met at their usual coffee shop, a cozy place filled with the smell of fresh pastries and brewed coffee. Silas sat at their usual table, his hands wrapped around a warm mug, trying to read Mabel's expression as she entered. "Hey, Silas," she said, her voice soft but laced with uncertainty. She took a seat across from him, her eyes searching his face for answers. "Hi, Mabel," he replied, forcing a smile. "How have you been?" Mabel took a deep breath, her fingers nervously tapping on the table. "I've been okay. Just trying to wrap my head around everything you told us the other night." Silas nodded, knowing how difficult it must be for her. "I didn't mean to shock you. I just felt I had to be honest." "I appreciate your honesty, truly," she said, her voice tinged with confusion. "But it's hard to understand what this means for us. I mean, will things change between us now?" Silas felt a pang in his heart. "I hope not. You're my friend, Mabel. That hasn't changed." "But will you see me differently now?" she asked, her gaze dropping to the table. "I mean, you have this money now. It could change everything." Silas shook his head. "Money doesn't change how I feel about you. You're still you, and I'm still me. I just want us to keep our friendship strong." Mabel looked up, her eyes searching his. "I want that too. I just need time to figure it out." As they spoke, Silas couldn't help but feel a lingering doubt. He feared that Mabel's confusion was just the beginning. Later that day, he met Tomas at their usual bar, hoping for a more straightforward conversation. "Silas?" Tomas greeted him, his tone flat. "I want to talk about what happened." "Yeah, I figured you would," Silas replied, feeling the tension in the air. Tomas took a long sip of his drink, his expression serious. "I'm disappointed, man. You know that, right?" "Disappointed? Why?" Silas asked, feeling a knot form in his stomach. "Because I thought you were different. You always talked about how money changes people, and now you're one of them." Tomas's voice was louder than intended, drawing the attention of nearby patrons. Silas leaned closer, his voice steady. "I didn't choose this. I was just lucky. It doesn't mean I'm going to change." "Really? Because it sure feels that way. What's next? Are you going to start acting like you're better than us?" Tomas challenged, crossing his arms. Silas felt anger rising within him. "You know me better than that. I'm still the same guy, just trying to figure this out." Tomas sighed, his expression softening. "I hope so. I just don't want to lose my friend." "Neither do I," Silas replied, his heart heavy with the weight of the conversation. As the days passed, Silas also noticed Jake lurking around more often. The new mechanic seemed eager to befriend him, but Silas could sense there was something off about Jake's intentions. "Hey Silas, can we grab a drink sometime?" "I'd love to hear about your win," Jake suggested, his smile wide and inviting. Silas felt a chill run down his spine. "I don't know, Jake. I'm just trying to keep things normal right now." "Come on, don't be like that. You're the talk of the town. Everyone wants to know you," Jake insisted, leaning in closer. Silas could see the greed glimmering in Jake's eyes, making him uneasy. "Yeah, well, I'm not interested in being a spectacle. I just want my friends around me, not people chasing after me for money." Jake raised his hands in mock surrender. All right, just thought you could use some new friends. Let me know if you change your mind." After the encounters with Mabel, Tomas, and Jake, Silas found himself alone in his thoughts. He stared out the window of his workshop, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. The warmth of the colors contrasted sharply with the chill in his heart. Silas whispered to himself, "What does friendship really mean now?" He felt lost, questioning the true intentions of those around him. He wanted genuine connection, but the shadows of wealth loomed over him, warping everything he once believed. In this aftermath, Silas understood that the road ahead would not be easy. Trust, once taken for granted, now felt fragile. He had to navigate this new world carefully, holding on to the hope that true friendship could withstand the tests of fortune. Silas Grayson stood at the window of his small workshop, watching the world outside. The sun shone brightly, casting warm light over the streets of his town. After revealing his lottery win, he felt a mix of emotions swirling inside him. Although he had shared his secret, the aftermath had left him uneasy. He needed time to understand what true friendship meant in light of his new reality. One afternoon, Silas met Mabel at a local cafe. The familiar smell of coffee filled the air as they settled into their seats. Mabel looked at him with a warm smile, but Silas could see a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. "Silas, I've been thinking a lot about what you told us," she began, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. "I just want to make sure we're still the same friends we've always been." Silas nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "I want that too, Mabel. I really do. But things feel different now. I don't want my money to come between us." Mabel sighed, her expression thoughtful. "I appreciate you saying that. I never wanted your wealth to change how we see each other. It's just complicated." They spent hours talking, sharing their thoughts and fears. Silas realized that Mabel's dream of opening a craft store was a perfect opportunity for them to work together. It could strengthen their bond, allowing them to connect beyond the shadows of wealth. "What if I help you with your store?" Silas suggested, his eyes brightening with the idea. "We can build it together. It could be a fun project." Mabel's face lit up. "Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course. I want to see you succeed," Silas replied, feeling excitement bubbling inside him. "Let's make your dream come true." As they planned, Silas felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wanted their friendship to be authentic and meaningful. They spent weekends working on the store, painting walls and arranging crafts. As they toiled together, laughter and camaraderie filled the air. One evening, as they painted a bright blue wall, Mabel paused, her brush hovering in the air. "You know, Silas, I'm grateful you're in my life. Your support means everything to me." Silas smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "And I'm grateful for you, Mabel. You remind me of what really matters." Their friendship blossomed, and Silas learned that authenticity brought him closer to Mabel. He began to let go of his fear of judgment. He no longer felt the need to hide parts of himself. However, not all his relationships were as easy. Tomas had been distant since the reveal, and Silas felt the weight of that silence. Silas decided it was time to reach out. "Tomas, can we talk?" Silas asked one day, catching him after work. Tomas hesitated but nodded, leading Silas to a quiet spot behind the garage. "Look, Silas, I just don't want things to change between us," Tomas said, crossing his arms. "Money can ruin friendships, and I don't want to lose you." "I get that," Silas replied, his voice steady. "But I'm still the same person. Just because I won money doesn't mean I'm different. I want to keep our friendship strong." Tomas studied Silas's face, searching for sincerity. "Okay, but I still feel uneasy. Just promise me you won't let it go to your head." "I promise," Silas said, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "I want us to move forward together." As the days passed, Silas felt a shift in his relationships. He began to host small gatherings, inviting his friends to enjoy simple moments together. He cooked dinner for Mabel and Tomas, sharing stories and laughter over meals. Finally, the day of Mabel's store opening arrived. Silas worked tirelessly to make it special. He organized a small community event, inviting everyone to celebrate Mabel's dream. On that sunny day, people filled the new shop, smiles lighting up their faces. Mabel stood behind the counter, beaming with pride as she greeted customers. Silas felt joy swell in his chest, knowing he had played a part in her success. "Thank you for everything, Silas," Mabel said, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Seeing you happy is all I need," Silas replied, feeling a sense of belonging wash over him. He realized that true friendship thrived on support, trust, and genuine connection, not on wealth. As the day went on, Silas looked around at his friends, Mabel, Tomas, and even Jake, who had come to show his support. They were all there, standing by him, reminding him that their bonds of friendship were far more valuable than any fortune. In that moment, Silas understood. True friendship, built on love and trust, could weather any storm, even the shadow of wealth. He smiled, knowing he had found a new understanding of what it meant to be rich in life. Share this story, if you believe that true friendship can overcome any challenge, even the weight of wealth. Leave a comment about a time when a supportive friend made a difference in your life, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.